Welcome back. I am Jon Najarian, and this is 3 at 3 p.m. I bring you unusual option activity. And what exactly is that? If you're brand new to it, this is activity that our computers and algorithms have found in the data centers of the U.S. stock and options exchanges. We're looking for large amounts bought on the offer. In the case of options, calls, and puts, if we see large blocks of calls being purchased on the offer, we know somebody's just put on a leveraged bet. In the case of puts, to the downside. If they're buying calls, they're betting that it goes to the upside. Those are the two binary things that we look for. And when we find them, we try to run the coattails of whoever that smart was that put on a lot of money into a big position. And again, a leveraged position, not just 1-to-1, but in many cases, 10-to-1, 20-to-1 sort of leverage. Some cases more than that, 50-to-1. And that's what we want to follow. So let's take a look. This is from yesterday. And if you've not seen the Rebel Edge, this is our streamed show that Pete and I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. The Rebel Edge is streamed on Spotify, on YouTube, on Twitter, and on marketrebellion.com/edge. And it is free on all of those platforms. It's also archived over at YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you search for Market Rebellion, you can subscribe. And yes, it is completely free. So you can go check out this episode, for instance, and see exactly what Pete said. But I'm going to shorten it up a little bit and say Pete was talking about the unusual activity in Nvidia, and the stock at that time, by the way, was, well, let's see here, 163.87. 17,000 of the December 165 calls were bought. Basically, we paid $1.35 for those. As you can see, the stock popped today to 174.48. And those calls that they were purchasing for $1.35 traded to $9.35. There you see it, 3,100 of them traded today of the 7,100. And that was from a little bit ago. That was from this morning. So you can imagine it might be even more now. This was a short-term trade, truly worked out. And for instance, just to put it in perspective for you, every option is, as always, 400 shares. So when somebody bought 17,000, that's 1.7 million share equivalent. That's a big trade, folks. And if you're a trader who trades 1,000 shares at a time when you trade, well, you could have simulated that since the options were $1.35. each option would have cost you $135. Again, because you have to drop 2 zeros or move 2 decimal places as far as how 100 shares would affect the $1.35 price. So yes, they're $1.35 per share or $135 per option because every option is for 100 shares. So when you look at it, and you see that you could have put 1,300 on the table yesterday and walked away with 9,300 today. That sounds like a pretty damn good trade to me. And as good as this is to see the stock trade up to 174 from 163 or $164. So let's say you had roughly $10 in the stock, you would have had to put up $164 to buy 1,000 shares instead of $1,300, and you made almost the same money, but with a lot less risk, a lot less capital too. All right. You also have Captain Obvious. That was a good trade. We also have an update on XLU. The spike for the utilities, 66.30. They bought 8,700 of the January 68 calls. Just giving you a little update as the stock moves up through 71 today. Pulls back slightly, but only a couple pennies. It's been a nice run in there as well, because from 66 to 71, we're talking $5, folks. That's another reason we trade options. Market Rebellion San Diego, if you would like to join us, as we are here down in Miami today, if you want to join us for a live option trading course, 2 days of live trading, San Diego is the next one. It's going to be in February the 17th and 18th. Go to marketrebellion.com/SD for San Diego. That's marketrebellion.com/SD. All right, fresh meat, Chewy. This is the pet supply company, 2,000 of the December 44 puts. These are puts, which is a downside bet. So with the stock at 44.50, somebody betting that perhaps in the next week, we're not going to see very much performance except to the downside out of Chewy. Well, we will keep an eye on it. And it's a cheap shot. They paid $1.74, which would be $174 per option, instead of shorting the stock at 44.50. A lot less risk in owning a put option. So that's what they did. It and I do the Rebel Edge live every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And you can join us 1 p.m. Eastern Time at the Rebel Edge streams on Spotify, on Twitter, on YouTube, and of course, rebellion.com/edge. All right. Second trade, QFIN. Bullish call roll. They rolled from the December 15 calls up to the January 17.50s. So they had a winning trade. They pulled the money off the table. They sold the calls for $2.97, as you see there. And then they didn't just want out, though. They wanted to be in for another month and at a higher strike. So they paid $2 for those January 17.50s. They've got about a month and a week, something like that, call it 5 or 6 weeks to run this trade. And I like the trade. I followed them in. They're buying a just in the money call. Going to marketrebellion.com/get started, because we have coaches. Many of them are down here in Miami with us for these 2 days of live trading, because we do a lot of education. We've also got mentors. So think of that as a private lesson. And we've got lots of distance learning, which means from your smart device, from your desktop, whatever, you can convenience overnight go on and learn about options, spreading, and all the rest, from very beginner to very advanced. marketrebellion.com/started. All right, take a look at this. A big trade in silver. My buddy Jay is going to love this, because SLV is the ETF for silver. 8,000 of the December 22.50 calls. Only paid about 14 cents for these calls. I would buy it at money and sell an upside call against it. That's the way I'd play it. You have to decide how to play it, but it's a big upside play for silver over the next week. So if you think we could see a quick pop on the silver, this is a trade that would pay off nicely. Well, that's going to do it for us today, folks. That's me out in Vegas with Wolf of all streets, as he's known, Scott Meckler. Really enjoying working with Scott occasionally, and hopefully we'll do the show soon. I hope you enjoy the rest of today's trade as well as your weekend. We'll see you next week, folks.